Well, we're
We're getting
recording.
going?
Yeah. That
Okay.
was eventful.
Yeah. Do you have anything else that you'd like to
I
spill
would
with
like
us?
you not to be pouring my coffee all over everything.
Well, sorry, John, but when my hand moves your hand to push over your cup,
Oh, man.
yeah.
Fresh butter coffee all over the table, seeping up on the computer.
Your computer obviously just loves a good old coffee butter bath every once in a
Needs a
while.
little bit of a boost. It is an older computer.
Is it?
Wow.
Like a year old?
It's about 2 years old.
That's old in your realm.
It is.
I'm going to turn off this fan over here.
I need technology to be up to date. That's for sure. So yeah, I just spilled a mug of butter coffee on the table. Had to throw away some papers, had to wipe up everything, still wiping off the computer.
And now you're relegated to a sippy cup, which is over
And
here.
I am doing a fat mug with a flat bottom. It's a short mug and it's got a top.
Yes. You really like those Yeti mugs.
Because evidently I don't have good coordination this morning.
We actually stopped on our way to a cidery. So they have an organic orchard and they make awesome cider out of their apples. And you're like, oh shoot, I don't have my Yeti mug. Because rather than stoop so low and drink out of just the regular glasses,
Stoop so low, come on. Trying to keep it cold longer.
Yep. Well, maybe you're just not drinking it fast enough.
They
John.
put it in that. Well,
There's that.
I wouldn't say that I'm not drinking it fast enough. I like it to come out of the. Well, in the mug I brought, I could put more than half a bottle. About half a bottle in that mug, yeah.
Yeah.
So I would pour half the bottle in my mug, and then I would pour out to the table because everybody had smaller glasses that the cidery hands out, but they're glass and it's hot out, and they start sweating right away because they're transferring the cool into heat.
Yep.
And I didn't like that. My mug never sweated. My mug was cool. My mug kept my half bottle of cider cool for the 5 or 8 minutes it took me to drink it. And then I'd get another bottle and I'd fill up my mug and then I'd give the other half to everyone else.
You're such a good share.
I am. Oh man. So is this going to be part 3? Is this going to be
Well, the notes I have from last time, so part 3 of the way, or getting out of your own way. And we had left off where you were talking about epiphanies as a child and as an adult. But I don't know if either of us remember enough of or do you remember?
Well, we were going down the line of my epiphany when I realized that I couldn't choose a good woman for me.
But I think the conversation actually moved along more from there, and then we were kind of going into a different tangent, but related.
Well, I had a few religious experiences when I was a kid. What I would call religious experiences. They were kind of attached to the church. I was a very skeptical, if you can put that on a 8 to 12-year-old. I was maybe I was more investigatory because I read the Bible straight through for the first time when I was 12 or 13, right at the end of my time at the Christian Academy. So I went to public school when I was a kid, and then there was so much violence and so much terrible behavior from the teachers. My parents put me in a private school. It was called a Christian Academy, and that was Blaine Christian Academy in Blaine, Minnesota. And it sounds kind of elite, right? It was just a small church school. They had a name that made them sound bigger, and I say I went to the academy, but I don't even think there was 60 kids, and it was all different grades. So it was kind of like the old classic one-room schoolhouse, except they had different classrooms, and it was on a church, at a church, and they had some classrooms, not many, maybe like 5 or 8 classrooms. And so they had young kids all the way up to 12th grade. I think it went from maybe 5th grade or something like that to 12th grade. And so that gives you an idea. There was probably 10 kids per grade.
Wow.
You know, so it was very focused, the teachers were very interactive. The teachers were very religious, but they were very attentive. They would allow you to question, you know, like if you had a question, they would say, well, it says this in this part of the Bible, and this is the lesson that we teach on that. And so they kept saying that. So I just started reading the Bible, and I had a very high comprehensive, reading comprehension level when I was very young. And so I loved to read, and I just burned through books, and I burnt through the Bible. You know, I just read it. And
you said burnt through, just to be clear.
Yeah, I didn't burn a Bible, but I burnt through it.
Well, it's interesting. Quickly, all the times I've heard you tell this, I didn't realize how small the school was. Yeah, when you say academy, I was thinking of, you know, some schools I've seen that are, you know, bigger charter schools or, so interesting.
Yeah, it was in the middle of Blaine. It was, you know, some of the people were kooky, you know, they were kooky religious, you know. It's like I ended up like hanging out with some friends, you know, and I'd be around their parents, and their parents were always, it's almost like the parents overly tried to talk about Christianity and religion because their kids were part of the school. I don't know, they might have really been that way, but I was so critical. Like, if somebody said something and I had read it in the Bible and they got it wrong, I would correct them. Mm-hmm. So I was very much that way the entire time I was there.
Well, you even called your grandma out on fake crying one time. So
yeah, there's that story, right? I was at my grandma's house, my grandpa and grandma's. My grandpa was out he was an engineer on the railroad, and he was gone for the 2-3 days or whatever it was that I was staying with my grandma. And my grandma would ask me to do stuff, and I'd do it, and I was always very efficient and quick. So if she wanted me to do something, I'd get done with it. I think she thought she was trying to occupy me, you know, keep me doing stuff. But I just wanted to go out in the woods and explore. You know, they had this big hill behind them called Mount George. So it was big enough where they were starting to say, this is like a giant hill, like a big, big, big hill. Not quite a mountain, but they call it a mount. And I always wanted to climb Mount George and go out there and explore, because there's, you know, it's just a big woods, and there's no trails or nothing. And so my grandma would say, you know, and then she would do stuff, and she was like, oh, Jon, don't you want to help me? And I got fed up just doing stuff all day like that, you know. And I'm like, no, I'm going to go down by the lake, or I'm going to go here. And then she started going, oh, Jon, you don't want to help me. And she started, I don't know what it was. You know, I was like, fake crying ain't going to get me to do it, Grandma. I was like 8 years old or something. I busted her. I was just like, oh, good grief. Because there was no reason to cry, you know. And I had done so much stuff. I was like, I need a break. I was kind of a precocious little snot sometimes, you know.
No way.
Yeah, so the academy was really good for me. It's kind of like the multi-level we did. It was really good for us, you know. And it got me away from the kids that were doing all the negative stuff in school and crazy stuff. And I mean, there's stories that I could probably tell on our podcast here, but not to just dive into them right now. They'd be part of a topic down the road. I can tell one of the stories in the public school. One of our teachers told the entire class there's no Santa Claus. And this was in like, what would it be, third or fourth grade? Third grade, maybe? Third graders still believe in Santa? Is that?
Some might.
Maybe second grade then? I don't know.
Yeah, I think third grade is more borderline.
Everyone in the class
probably second grade
freaked out.
Yeah,
everyone.
First or second grade, that would be a freak.
And everybody freaked out so bad they had to call all the parents in. And so moms, most of the time back then, moms most moms didn't have a job. It was probably half and half back then.
Yeah.
And so moms were showing up from home, and then moms were having to come from work, and a lot of dads showed up, and
so let's paint
all the kids went home.
I want to paint the picture a little bit more. Okay, let's make this a little more colorful. Okay, so this was probably late 70s, mid-late 70s, right? And so they're pulling up in their huge, humongous cars, and the moms got on there.
Toyotas and Hondas back then.
Really? Well, in the cities, maybe.
Well, we lived in Coon Rapids.
Yeah. And so moms are coming in with their bell bottoms and stuff, and their big glasses.
Yeah, they all showed up looking like Farrah Fawcett.
Yeah. And so
tight shirts, blouse button down to the middle of the boob. Yeah, the whole thing. No.
Well, of course. Well, see, that's why I wanted to get into the story.
Actually, that kind of was the way it was.
Yeah.
Everybody had that brown tone.
Yeah, everything brown. Every brown tone. Like red was brownish.
We had green carpeting
in
our house, and other people had orange, and some people had brown. So it was that era where the browns and the dark greens and the
yellow was more brown, red was more brown,
oranges,
blue was more brown,
dark burnt oranges. Yeah,
right? Yeah. So everything kind of had like a sepia overtone to it.
We all walked around. We didn't know what color was.
Outside of brown, with brown on it. Well, that's why I wanted to get into this. Paint the picture a little bit more, and then the dads heard about it, and they had their tight shirts on also.
Oh, the dads would show up in
their beards were in then too.
Well, they would have suede patches on their shirts, like where the top flap of the pocket was
small
suede.
Handguns, like they're coming around the corner, like where's this teacher that
small handguns. Sawed-off shotguns. No, the
it's kind of a mixture between like a crime story, and like the investigator and stuff.
The dads would show up in corduroys.
Chip
you could hear them coming down the halls.
They call the cops. Yeah. Chip and Dale show up on their bikes. Like, we hear there's a problem here with the kid.
That's interesting, because back then Chip and Dale were cartoon chipmunks, and you're saying chips. That's the California.
Oh, yeah, it wasn't Chip and Dale.
Yeah,
what were their names?
Chip and Dale are the dancers. I'm checking your browser history. What's going on here?
I watched that show, but I don't remember their names.
What show?
Chips.
Chip and Dale.
Well, they were Chip and Dale?
The chipmunks?
I'm gonna look it up.
The chipmunks?
No, the cops show.
Jon and Ponch.
Oh, yeah.
Poncherello and John.
See? Yeah. So.
Come on.
I remembered certain
Don't play
things.
70s and 80s Trivial Pursuit with me. You'll lose.
Dude, I was really young, and I was watching reruns at that point.
Yeah, right.
So
well, you didn't remember their name.
No.
I said their name was Chip and Dale, and you're like, really?
Well, I was like, that can't be.
That would be hilarious.
Wouldn't it?
That would have been the best purposeful faux pas of the television controllers. Isn't it funny? Think of the word television. So now,
television.
A vision.
Oh, wow. Yeah. Let's see, they had a reunion
and
film.
Guess what? You would open up your TV guide and it would say, this is your programming schedule.
Oh my gosh. It's in plain sight.
Right.
Okay. Oh, there they are. Yep. Poncherello.
So do you know what plain sight means?
Plain?
In plain sight. So if you're in a plane, you can see everything.
Oh, really?
It's
Is that
in
weird?
plain sight.
I feel like I have to look that one up.
I'm flipping the script.
Okay,
baby.
so it was late 70s, early 80s. So
Yeah.
I was definitely watching reruns by that point. So Chip and Dale, a.k.a. Jon and Poncherello, show up.
Pancho Villa.
It's Eric Estrada.
He was Latino.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
I could tell that.
So he could have been Pancho.
Well, yeah, see? It's... or you usually say Paco. So that's how I got them mixed up.
Or Pedro.
Yeah, a.k.a.
So it was Juan and Poncherello.
So the principal calls the parents.
They were the Mexican police.
And then one of the parents is Poncherello. And he's like, hey, John, we got a situation to take care of.
And he doesn't.
All the moms show up.
Yeah.
And then the cops show up. and then they get a little distracted. Like they're all going in just like a Farrah Fawcett Chips reunion.
Farrah Fawcett, Lee Majors, who was the $6 million man, shows up.
They all show in at the school.
Yeah.
And
then
like,
Poncherello's yelling at the teacher, and he doesn't take off his aviator glasses until halfway through.
Right.
And then he's cross-eyed.
Oh, gosh.
He's got a lazy eye. He's got one crazy eye looking left.
Wasn't one of them kind of like a ditzy kind of person character?
Well, one was blonde and one was Latino. Yeah.
Yeah.
That was the first. Diversity.
It worked on me.
It wasn't the first. It was one of the. Well, I guess I can't even say that because we had the Jeffersons, and you had Archie Bunker, and then you had. They were always.
They were starting early.
They were always dealing with diversity.
Yeah. So going back to this scene here,
Yeah.
and so the moms come in one entrance, and then Jon and Ponch come in, same entrance or different entrances?
No, the parents came in and the kids had to go home.
The moms. You said mostly moms.
I know you want to play a narrative here, but it's kind of dragging.
Okay.
All right.
All right. It was funny while it lasted.
It was funny in your head, that's for sure. I love watching you laugh.
Well, I had to I don't know.
I know
All
what
right.
you had to do.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so then what? You got home and
My
what happened to the teacher?
What do I remember? I don't know even what happened to the teacher. I'm sure there was some sort of, back then, that would have been a massive reprimand. I mean, probably would have been time off. And then they would have to evaluate if that person could teach young children.
Yeah.
I mean, you can't just destroy children's worldviews because you disagree with them, you know, and teachers like that are always usually young. They're idealistic, right? Because the ones that teach the little kids are usually the younger teachers, mostly females, you know, especially back then. And yeah, I mean, it's just because something is different in the world than a child perceives it doesn't mean an adult comes up to them and starts screaming in their face. No. You know, you're believing a lie.
Well, children literally take everything as reality.
Well, it takes
and it's just
time.
I
mean, kids pretend that they're puppies. They pretend that they're dinosaurs. You know, you don't scream at them. You're not a puppy, you know. Yeah. I mean, if they start peeing on the floor somewhere, then the mom can scream at them and swat their butt or whatever they need to do. But, you know, it's like... Yeah. But it's got to be relative to the, you know... The time has to be relative to the crime.
The time, okay. Yeah. All right, I have to take a quick pause and turn off the garden hose.
Move a garden hose. All right, we'll be back. Trying to get into my recording here so I can pause this. There we go. Well, to get back to it, I don't know what kind of problem happened, but I would say, if I was a school superintendent, I would say, all right, Betsy, you're not teaching second grade or first grade, whatever it is. You know, we're going to move you up to 7th grade for a while. Yeah. See how you like that? Those kids are going to talk back.
Yeah.
They're not going to cry when you say something.
So how about a homestead update?
Homestead update.
Homestead update.
Yeah. Oh, our homestead, yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So I think last time we talked, we had just hatched out another batch of chicks.
Yeah.
And
5 chicks total. 1 hatched by the hens, and then 4 I hatched out of an incubator. Mm-hmm. But what I did, which is highly unorthodox, is right as they were hatching and as they had popped their pip. So when a chick is coming out of the egg, they will peck the side of the egg to create a little oxygen hole, because they're done eating up. Well, they're not quite done eating up the white, right? So the chick is grown from the yolk, and the white is food for the chick as it's growing, and they eat all of it. So when they hatch out totally, their stomach is this little bulbous thing, and it's all squishy, and they're full of the egg white, right? So that's chick food. But when they peck a little hole in the side of the egg, it's called a pip. And so when you see a pip, they're going to come out within the next 24 hours, right? And so what I did is one chick hatched fast. She came out of there just like bam, bam, bam. And then she was standing up in the incubator
Like how fast is fast?
maybe 20 minutes to 40 minutes,
Wow.
roughly.
Yeah.
She was out, and then I saw what was going on, and so I took that chick right away and brought it out and put it under the broody mom that was in there. Mm-hmm. And she was sitting on 2 eggs. She was like, I'm hatching these eggs. And those 2 eggs never did hatch. So they may not have been fertilized, whatever. I think the chickens can tell, but sometimes, everything has to be not perfect, but pretty good for an egg to develop and a chick to hatch, right? Mm-hmm. So then the other 2 eggs had pips, and then one was taking a little longer, so I put the other 2 eggs under the mom, and by the time I got those 2 eggs under, she was already like, I got a chick. She was already proud and coming out of their, they go into like a little bit of a trance when they're broody, and they're not, because they're kind of in stasis, right? It's kind of like they go into a hibernation because they sit so long on the eggs. It's 20 days usually, and they don't do much. They might get up and get some water, mm-hmm. but they won't if the temperature's not right? Like if the mm-hmm. coop is too cold, they're not going to get off the eggs, right? Mm-hmm. So, and they'll roll them and stuff. But what happens is you'll usually get a couple broody hens, so they'll take turns, right? But you'll see one hen that is usually like the main one. So I've seen them get up, I've seen them do a few things, but they are out of it. Mm-hmm. They're not like the other chickens, they go straight to the water. They go straight to where you put some food. If you put some food down, they're not into hunting for food, Mm. And so anyway, she got 4 chicks. Mm-hmm. and then slowly I took the eggs that were under her. Mm-hmm. And then she was just like, her wings were all puffed out and all the chicks were under her wings. And she was, just happy as a
mama with chicks.
Yeah. So
yeah. Well, and they really took to her, she took to them, and mm-hmm. you'd read online too that always isn't always the case, but it just.
Well, everybody was like, you got to put them in a cage in the coop, and so that the chickens can't get to them, and so they can't get to the big chickens, right? Mm. And I decided to try. It's natural that they hatch eggs, and then the chicks are with them, right? Mm-hmm. And so I'm like, well, this has to work. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, why would it be that way?
Well, we had seen also that the one that they did hatch out worked just fine. That one actually had 2 moms, until this
that one grew fast.
Yeah.
So.
And just fine. Fortunately, had 2 moms who was always surrounded and like really well taken care of. And then as this mom, 3 days later, they started going outside already.
Yeah. Yeah.
And,
oh gosh.
And that chick that was bigger acclimated and started hanging around with this mom and the chicks.
Because when the first chick turned into a teenager, the 2 moms were kind of like, all right, well, you're not that cute anymore.
Something.
It would run around and follow the moms, but slowly over time, the moms were like, you're big enough. Mm-hmm. You can take care of yourself. You don't need to hide under my wing. Mm-hmm. And that chick now sits on top of the other mom
the big one?
At night, yeah.
Holy cow.
The big one will sit on top of the mom of the other 4. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And just be like, okay, we're all a family. That teenage chick really wants the family. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So that chick travels around with the mom and the other 4. But then we had one die, and it was the bigger one. It was the one that was more adventurous. We had 2 yellow ones and 2 multicolored, kind of black and grayish, and one larger white one that was more adventurous. That one I found next to the coop. Mm-hmm. No damage, no puncture wounds, no nothing, but must have got pecked by a bigger one because it was more independent. I'm sure the mom wasn't there to protect it if it upset one of the other hens.
Yeah, that one would go 1 to 2 feet away, or even like the little troop already moved away, and it'd be like
it would run into the middle of the bigger chicks, and I'm sure I saw them get stepped on a few times, but I'm sure it got like pecked away from some food or something.
Yeah.
Because chickens aren't completely polite.
No. They're cute, they're neat, but yeah. there's definitely an animal component.
So we have 4 chicks, 1 teenager, 3 younger ones, and those little fluff balls at 3 days running around outside I was shocked because we have at least a 6 to 7 inch wall. I would call it a lip, but a wall to get out of the coop and through the door because I have an auto run chicken door or chicken run auto door. Chicken run, you guys make great doors. So it opens up with the morning light and then it closes before dusk. And that's the chickens go in on their own before dusk. They don't want to be out when it gets dark.
Yeah.
So they know that. That would be the time that they would roost in the trees or whatever, find some place on a wood bin or a wood pile or something.
Yeah, I didn't know until maybe a year ago that even though we've had chickens before, that chickens are a tree fowl.
Yeah. Yep. They can't fly very good, but they can jump up and fly up to a branch and fly up to another branch so they feel safe at night.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, they're out on day 3. They're 3 days old.
I couldn't believe it.
And we're like, holy cow.
They're so tiny.
They're just tiny. They're totally fluff balls at that point still. And this is the point still when you've gotten them from a hatchery, you're like, babying them.
You think you have to take, they're 2 days old when you get them, and you think you got to do everything for them. Mm-hmm. And now we got 3-day-old chicks running around outside eating whatever the mom is telling them to eat.
Yeah,
because
and they do talk.
Oh, the mom will go over. She makes a food noise, and it's different than the food noise that rooster makes. Big Roost makes a different food noise. So the mom makes a noise. Her noise keeps other hens away. So when the other hens hear that, she knows, oh, she's feeding her babies. And the other hens don't come over. And if they do come over, they get hit. They'll get pecked. And so I'm watching and I'm like, I did dip their beaks in water, to make sure that they knew what water was and got a little taste for that. But that was it. That's all I ever did. I mean, I tossed food out and stuff once a day, but they're on their own, They're all over the yard. The mom I saw would if she caught like a cricket or something, she would kill it, and then she'd lay it on the ground, and you'd see a chick pull a leg off of it and then try and eat the leg. That's how small they were. Like a cricket leg was big.
Yeah, it was a full-size chicken, like us roasting a chicken. You see them running around because you've gotten cricket treats, and they would grab them.
No, the chicks would grab them and run with them, but
they
couldn't eat them.
Right.
They were so big, yeah.
Yeah.
And then they would kind of peck at them and try and get pieces. And
so you were like, how in the heck are they getting out? That lip is so big, and like a week later.
I have a camera in the coop, so we have.
But you must have gotten this off your phone. It was clear enough. That was off the camera.
It was from the video of the camera.
Holy cow!
Yeah.
So we'll have to share that video. It's just a quick clip, really brief.
It might have been from my phone. You might be right.
Yeah, well, it looks like it was from your phone.
Okay, yeah, maybe it was from my phone.
So they just jump, boop, and then flap their wings.
They fly. Yeah, they jump and fly, and so they could jump maybe 2 inches high, but then with their flapping, that helps them. And
even the fluffy wings work. They don't have feathers yet.
I was shocked. I was so shocked because we usually would keep them in a brooder inside for a month and a half. I mean, if they were all little chicks, you can't put them all outside. They have to have mama hens to guide them, protect them, and teach them. Well, the mama hens came from chicks that we got, and we had them in the brooder for a couple of months inside, right? 3 months, whatever it was, 2 months, 2.5 months, before we put them in the coop. And then we didn't let them out. They were in the coop for a long time.
Over the winter.
And then when we finally let them out, they had a fenced-in area. So they would know, hey, okay, this is our area. And then when they got to the point where I thought, okay, they can handle running around, I took the fence down. And then they do stick around good, but geez.
And you train them with treats, because we've gotten this question before, so how do you keep them from going elsewhere? Will you train them?
Well, when I give them treats, I don't just throw stuff everywhere. I take it to specific spots.
And there are a couple times, or at least one time, you've taken the mower when the chickens were going over the neighbors. You shoot them back with the mower.
Yeah, I was driving towards them because the neighbor doesn't want them in their yard, and because they poop everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah, or they'll go sit on their deck and they'll just do a bunch of drops, and all of a sudden the neighbor has to spray their deck off, right? So as they were getting to the line, the border line, the property line, I just drove the mower along the property line and drove towards them, and they always run back to their coop when they're scared. So I wasn't getting close to them. I was just coming. They stayed plenty away from the mower.
I'm writing down #chicken training.
Chicken training, for sure. You can train them for sure. A lot of people, like, they'll have one that's a pet, and when they go out, they put it on their shoulder, and they just walk around, and the chicken loves it, and they know their names. They can remember something like 20 or 30 chicken names, and they remember like 20 or 30, 40 faces of people. They know who people are, and Big Roos knows who I am. He's always coming after me.
Yeah, he's like, who is this threat? He feeds us, but...
Well, he used to ride on my shoulder too, so I think now he thinks he's a big guy, that he's gonna be the alpha chicken.
Well, he technically is.
He is.
He does take good care of the
Well,
girls.
we want him there. I don't. I've had to put him in his place a few times, but I don't want to hurt him. But geez,
Yeah.
he got me with both spurs yesterday.
Yesterday?
They went like this around my leg, so he didn't hit me directly. He missed. He was moving, and I moved my leg as he came in. Thankfully, I was wearing jeans, and thankfully he missed like he did. But I felt both spurs on both sides of my leg, and then I gave him a boot on the side, and he didn't like that. Usually if he comes at me, I'll do like a slow swing with my foot up so it throws him backwards. I don't punt him, but I'd lift him and throw him backwards, and then he kind of like, oh, I got him from the side this time, and he didn't like that. He was like, oh, like, okay, I'm gonna stay over here. Yeah, because when chickens fight, they fight directly on. So I'm trying all these strategies, right? And so if I come straight at him, I'm fighting him like a chicken would, right? So I came sideways, and that wasn't something that he was ready for. And
The Jeet Kune Do chicken.
well, I was putting the gas tank accessories and equipment on our farm tank, our above ground farm tank, and I'm like, dude, I can't have you attack. I'm coming down the ladder and you're attacking me. I'm going up the ladder and you're attacking me. And he could fly, so he could get 6 feet in the air, and I don't want to be on the ladder and get attacked and potentially fall,
Well, we deduced that he's probably attacking because you come out with treats, which he loves, but then you're like taking the lady's attention.
All the girls follow me. Yeah, they're like, oh, what does he got? And I think he really gets upset at that. And I put it down for him. Like, I'll put the first pile by him so he can call him over, and he does. He does his tok 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 like that, and that's his food call. And then he'll pick up, like, if it's worms, he'll pick one up and he'll show the chickens, and then he'll drop it. He won't even eat it until the hens are satiated, and then he goes around and picks up whatever's left, and he does grab crickets right away. And he eats a couple right away, because the crickets got to be the best.
Yeah.
So I buy the banded crickets, and
Awesome treat.
awesome treats.
Yeah. So yeah, he's a good boy. So yeah. I think that's overall too, the understanding of animals is that, if it appears that they're behaving badly, a lot of times they're doing what's natural to them.
Yeah. I'm not trying to punish him. I'm just like, dude, you got to stop. Because mostly he'll attack me when I look away. So like if he comes up running up behind me and I turn and look, he stops because he sees I'm looking at him, right?
Yeah.
And it's easier to attack something that's running away. And I'm not running away. I'm just walking out with hay or food or going to clean the coop or water or whatever it is.
Yeah.
But it's irritating to me.
Well, no kidding. So we're still working on some projects. There's lots of...
The greenhouse is not up yet, but electrical is run. The sauna is up, not completely finished, because every time I go work in it, I sweat like I've been in a sauna for 2 hours. So I'm like, well, what do I need a sauna for? Because I could just go outside and sweat,
Well, and then it gets evening sun, so it really needs to be worked on in the morning. But it's almost done. And so maybe we'll save on electricity that way.
Well, the electrical is running. We're outside sweating and that type of thing. So we're mountain biking and different things.
Yeah, that one isn't such a high priority. You just wanted to...
Not now. We want it for winter. But we did get our tub in. And so we finished off that bathroom.
But the garden is doing really well.
Yeah.
I think that's one to highlight.
So I bring in arugula and beets this morning.
Well, we had bison sausage this morning, and I was already out in the garden weeding this morning and just kind of saw where things are at. And we're getting, I'm harvesting peas every other day now. It looks like beans just started where I'll be harvesting every other day. And I saw the arugula did well, but the lettuce not so great. But I think the raised bed will really help with the environment for
the arugula was really good this morning. Normally I don't like it.
Right. So it was also mature arugula, which can get really peppery. And so I grabbed the lettuce from the garden, grabbed a couple handfuls of arugula, came in, rinsed them, and I used Salad Girl. I like making my own dressing, but it's really handy to have some good pre-made ones on hand. So Salad Girl has an orange splash. And so I did about half and half, or almost half and half lettuce to arugula, chopped it up, and put it in a bowl, a tossing bowl, just doused it in that orange dressing. And then I added chev cheese to it. Goat cheese.
Goat chev. Yeah.
And usually you don't like goat cheese either.
It all balanced really well.
It did go really well together. So the sausage was I just rolled it up in balls and made like meatball sausage, but then I cut it up for the salad and then put some dressing on that too, and it was just very well balanced, like you said, just nicely put together. So we had stuff totally fresh from the garden.
Except for the bison. That didn't grow in our garden.
No, unfortunately. So watering, I think what's really helped is those wood chips have really helped. We've planted our watermelons are starting to grow, and I think I'm gonna try to take a picture each day because they're like growing
fast.
Yeah. But I've also been watering diligently too.
Yeah, you need water for watermelon.
Definitely. But I'm gonna try to get a picture each day because they just like grow like crazy. Yeah. And I planted a smaller variety kind and a larger variety kind, and the larger one is just the plant itself is growing like crazy too. So.
Our compost pile hasn't done that great because the chickens found it.
The chickens are enjoying what we put in the compost pile. Yeah. But the remaining actually has been decomposing well.
Well, we'll get out there this week and rake it and then wet it and stuff and get it piled up. And
I keep forgetting to do that.
Because we need a little bit of pressure, down pressure, and we need a furnace effect, So you bring it all to the middle and and then get it wet and even compact it,
Yeah.
Because then it will get its thermogenic effect going and start decaying and create heat, and then it'll decay faster, and then it becomes good fertilizer.
Yeah. So this year was a good kind of assessment year. So I didn't do like soil testing other than for the blueberries. I wanted to make sure that they had acidic enough soil, but I can tell the soil it could use some amending, and so that compost will be really helpful.
What is amending, Tara?
Amending would be adding to, would be adding nutrients.
Okay.
Is amending the soil.
So you'd put in some peat moss, or you'd put in some wood chips, or what would you do? Other dirt, some sand, what?
Well, technically, for the blueberries, I amended the soil because I put peat moss in there, which is very acidic, to balance out our pH in our soil is pretty neutral, but blueberries need
Michael Bubléaries
need rather acidic soil. So I amended the soil, more so just replaced it with peat moss. I dug a big hole, much bigger hole than is needed for blueberries, and that's amending for pH, but not necessarily. I suppose the related nutrients would come along with that. But as far as the amending in the other areas, putting compost in that has more of the nutrients.
And how do you test pH?
Well, I bought a monitor.
A couple of sensors.
It's a sensor,
Probe
but
sensors.
It's a probe sensor. You can also get pH strips from the nursery, but I thought, I'm just going to get the probe so I can
stick it in the ground and it tells you.
Well, if you'd like to know the process.
I'm listening.
I thought it was like, oh, awesome, stick it in the ground. Cool. But what you need to do is you need the rough version of this, because there's various versions depending on how accurate you want to get. I took out a ball canning jar, a quart jar, and I put distilled water in it, so that is, and I actually measured the pH of the distilled water, so that this wasn't in the instructions, but I'm like, I think I want to know the pH of this water first. Yeah. And then what you do is you add a certain amount, basically make a sludge of the soil, adding that. Well, it would be the other way around. Typically, you're putting the soil in the jar and then adding. I suppose you could do it either way. So then you make this sludge. But I also wanted to get a baseline for the monitor. So by putting it in the distilled water, I was running a couple tests. I wanted to see it change, verify that it was working. Because it actually takes several minutes to do a reading. And so I did that, made the sludge. We have very neutral soil. And so I did the same with the peat moss I didn't measure, because on the package it said it's pH range, which is very acidic. And so I thought, well, at that level, so that's how you measure it.
So
really
you added
roughly.
The peat moss and then you measured the sludge. And then you knew what you had.
I did it like I do cooking.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, this is going to even out.
It's done when the smoke alarm goes off?
No, I don't cook like that. I'm only on occasion when I get distracted.
When you forget bone broth on the stove?
Oh, gosh. So I just did it like I did cooking, which is like, well, that tastes good, and I'll just add in a handful more.
So you tasted the sludge?
No. So I planted 2 blueberry bushes. Yeah. And they did fine over the next week or so. Yeah. And I was like, okay,
I didn't kill them.
I feel safe to do the other 3. Well, me and the plants have, I think, a pretty good connection.
Yeah. So to be more complete, you'd want to, if somebody else was doing it, you'd want to make your concoction, 1 part land sludge, 1 part peat moss, test it, and then go from there, and then you'd know how much to add to your pit.
I'm pretty sure I did that. And it kept on coming out very close to neutral. And so I decided to fill just the whole hole with peat moss.
Yeah, because the dirt's going to get in there anyway.
The dirt and the rain are going to balance out the pH, make it a little more alkaline along the way.
So the blueberries, then they want acidity.
Yeah.
So less than neutral on the pH, less than a 7.
Yes.
Or a 5.
It was like ideally like mid-4s to 6.
Yeah.
Which is quite acidic. So, yeah. And they grow shallow. I've always associated, not that this is necessarily true, but I've always associated, pine, where pines grow, it tends to be more acidic by nature, and then as they shed their leaves and such. But also they can grow well in the sandy soils. Maybe not all pines, but it's just kind of how I associate it. So
blueberries grow by pines?
Yeah, well, in my mind they do. Well, I hear Grandma talks about, when she lived up north as a kid, and her mom would send them up collecting blueberries. And up north they have a lot of pines, birch. It's more sandy soil.
Yeah.
So. And
not very deep. There's a lot of rockiness up there.
Yeah, and blueberries, their root systems are more shallow. And so I kind of create an image of the scenery of the environment where they grow in.
And I think if the plant needs more of something else, it will direct its roots in that direction. It'll be able to sense what it needs, where it is, and that kind of stuff. And so you could kill a plant pretty easily if it's all wrong.
Oh yeah, or even partially wrong. It just won't thrive. Yeah. I also I amended the soil as well with a fertilizer that's specific for berries. Oh. Okay. And an organic one that's supposed to be balanced for berries, and mix that in. But what I did also is I dug a much bigger hole than it called for the blueberries, and I did it more wide because they have a shallow root system. It didn't need to go deep, and since it'll go wide anyways. And then I filled that in with the peat moss, so it would have and I'll amend it. I'll add peat moss again in the future here just to keep amending that.
You could probably add some dirt on the top of that too, just to get some more of the
alkalinity?
The natural nutrients in the dirt.
Yeah. Yeah, a good compost, or just even that fertilizer.
The microbiome of the dirt.
Yeah, and that's good getting your plants, with a good chunk of dirt where they come from as well.
Well, there you go. That's a homestead update.
Yeah, you've put up awesome hose reels system.
Retractable hose reels with a quick change, quick clip system, so you can change sprinklers, hose sprayers, connect hoses, and when you disconnect them, they don't just run water out the end, so you don't have water all over the place. You don't have to kink the hose while you're screwing on the sprinkler, that kind of stuff. So it's pretty awesome. You got a gadget guy in your household.
Very awesome. And apparently they're made in Germany, those clever, industrious Germans.
Germans make really good products.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
So, you won't get to see me dodge all the spraying hoses anymore, but, I appreciate that you're trying to help me out.
Yeah, I was like, you should wear this white t-shirt out there in the garden when you're changing hoses.
Yeehaw.
Get some, you'd win because you're the only one in the contest.
Oh, there you go. It's a surefire way to win.
If I was judging, you'd win.
Good.
No matter who was there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So
it's called brownie points.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yours are more like white cake points. That's your favorite.
Yes. I would take white cake over a brownie any day of the week, any minute of the day, any second of the minute. Yeah, any millisecond of the second. That's right.
You have quite a sweet tooth. My joke is that all your teeth are sweet. So when you're consuming sweets, what are you thinking? Do you ever think
how good they are for me? Yeah. Well, nowadays, I'm not on any high fructose corn syrup or anything like that. I don't drink pop. I do have a Virgil's root. I have a 4-pack of Virgil's root beer here. I think I've had one of them out of it, maybe 2 in the last 3 weeks.
And they use cane sugar, right?
They do use cane sugar, but they're a little bit more broad. I like seeing products that aren't everywhere, local, natural products, whatever, and I do like, when you say sweets, like we go to the coffee shop every now and then and I'll get a scone, you won't. You'll have maybe a bite or 2 of one. And so comparatively, I have a lot of sweets, but compared to you. But if you compare me to the person that's 200 pounds overweight sitting next to me at the coffee shop, and they got 2 caramel rolls and a donut, and
well, that's how I like to compare myself.
That's what I do. I learned from Jerry Springer. You always look at the worst element in society, and you feel good about yourself.
Right. Yeah.
That's what I do.
Go.
Yep.
When I nag on you, it's at least I'm not nagging like the neighbor lady or something. You should be grateful.
It wouldn't, if you nagged like the neighbor lady, I'd say move next door.
But Jon, at least it's not as bad as so and so.
No, everybody has their units of measure. I guess I think I'm here with you. I have a good life. I'm not training for a triathlon. I'm not. If I was, I wouldn't be eating any sugar and that type of thing. You're drinking my cold butter coffee, and that's got raw sugar in it.
Oh my gosh!
I know, Tara. You have such a sweet tooth. I can't believe it.
Yeah, how many packs do you put? You use, for some reason, those sugar packets.
Well, I ran out of the bulk, so I just burning up the packets.
You didn't run out of bulk. Come on. You pause it.
Not with all the sweets that I eat, huh?
Not disappointed.
Well, as long as you're #not disappointed, reference to a podcast about 6 or 7 ago.
We should make sure we have that number.
Oh, jeez, I don't know. I'm okay with people looking for it on their own. We are okay. Let's officially clink. You got your mason jar. I got my Yeti mug.
I think it's bad luck to clink with nothing in there. Let me get
There's
some.
a little in there.
Yeah, but
Yeah,
that's
just sip it. Clink
okay.
it. Thud. Now sip. Cheers.
Cheers, baby.
I am officially back on coffee.
There we go.
Yeah, we lost our tradition. We didn't open up with pouring of the coffee. We didn't. So
You literally did pour the coffee, John.
I poured it on the table.
Yeah. So let's
That's
not.
because my abundance runneth over.
Yes, overfloweth.
My abundance runneth over.
Okay, so I have another topic question.
Oh.
Let's talk about my podcast. And
Okay.
I want to, so you've been, several years ago, I started a podcast. My initial client business became very busy, and so I took a break from that podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah. You're showing me the chicken cam.
Yeah, I got the cam in the coop, and so we got a white hen going broody again. What the heck? Big roost is in there too. What's going on?
Huh.
Usually
Maybe.
he never goes in during the day.
So, and recently we've had quite a nice shift in my business where we've hired some really great people.
Yeah.
And I can focus on other things.
Yeah.
Rather than just like the daily stuff and all the operations stuff. Oh man. So you've encouraged me to start my podcast again.
So your first podcast started out, it was called Tara's Healthy Life.
Yeah.
And that one had mega reach.
Mega reach.
Yeah. Well, you were looking at views, right? You were like, so what
I see
happened
what you
was we went to Brazil to visit your host families and to go on a vacation because you were a foreign exchange student in Brazil for a year. Mm-hmm. And the town we went to was what? Bahia or Ouro Preto or
Belo Horizonte.
Belo Horizonte.
Yeah.
And so while we were there, we're going to be there for a couple weeks, we joined a gym so that we could go work out, right? And we went into the gym. One of your host sisters was with us, and you were talking to them because most of them didn't speak English and I didn't speak Portuguese, so you were just talking to them. We want to join, blah, 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 we want to work out. And so we got our little membership thing. We went through the secure door, go figure, a gym with a secure door that you have to go through because Brazil has got crime and all that kind of stuff. And
Well, no, it's just they're really so much about the booty and
crazy people just wanting to come in and do squats.
Yeah, or to watch the squat doers.
Oh, there you go. I get it.
Well, because remember that there's women specifically doing just butt stuff, butt exercises.
They were in the health club doing butt stuff. Yeah.
Butt exercises.
They were.
Gluteus
They were doing
maximus.
stupid stuff you see in America now.
Yeah.
Like they were on the squat rack backwards. They were doing things because they want that booty popping.
Yeah.
And so yeah, they were doing butt stuff in the gym. That's a good way to say it. And we're walking through there, and I'm working out, and all of a sudden I hear, "Oh, that's Portuguese," and this trainer that worked there starts hollering at you, and I'm looking up, and I kind of come over, and you're like, "She watches my podcast, Tara's Healthy Life." And she's like, "You're Tara." Oh my, we're in another country, and you have a fan at the one place we go to.
Yeah, we didn't go anywhere else.
Well, the one, we went to join there, we go into a place and you have a fan. And I was like, there you go. You've got worldwide popularity. So that's why I say your reach was broad and wide. And, it's.
Yeah, despite the view count.
So that was Tara's Healthy Life. And then you wrote a book called Universal Self-Care. And you started a podcast called Weight Free Wellness. Meaning weight, not worrying about your weight, but being well. And, if you work on your wellness, you're going to lose the weight anyway. You're going to be whatever normal size is for you. Not starving, not overweight, but just comfortable in your normal body with your frame size and all that. So your body typing book talked about all of that. And the Weight Free Wellness was a podcast and a business where you would interview people in the nutritional fields, in the exercise. You interviewed musicians, you interviewed chiropractors, you interviewed martial artists, you interviewed,
yoga teachers,
general people in different things. And you interviewed the camel milk guy, the guy that sells camel milk.
Yeah.
Which is really weird.
Well,
it's okay, but it's strange. It's a strange thing to think about.
Well, yeah, on the off, yeah.
Because we don't live in the desert.
Apparently, back at World War I, they imported a bunch of camels to the United States, because for war efforts, particularly in the desert Southwest, they're acclimated.
Yeah.
And horses aren't.
Yeah.
So, yeah, interesting stuff.
Except for Hidalgo.
Hidalgo?
Yeah. The movie. You got to watch the horse that ran 1,000 miles through the desert or whatever it was.
Oh.
Yeah.
So I think I'm going to keep Tara Baklund as the name of the podcast because it just can go in so many
Tara's
directions.
America. That's the name of the podcast. People look for it soon. I bought the domain the other day. It's Tara's America. It's not even a super patriotic thing. It's how you want to see the world, how you want to see America come together again as a wonderful country for everybody that it has been. And
so what I experienced when I named it Tara's Healthy Life, when I wanted to interview someone about something that was not directly health related, or maybe they didn't think that they were a healthy example person, I had a number of people who were like, no, that's not for me. And I was like, well, dang it, I don't want the name of my podcast to dissuade people from talking to me, and sharing with other people. And there was also, when it was Tara's Healthy Life, it was like, I have a hard time, for a Leo, maybe it's easier to say, this is my way of being, and it kind of feels the same
so
with Tara's
you think
America.
If you say Tara's America, people are going to be like, no, because I don't like America?
Or something I would like to do for the podcast is have bilingual podcasts.
And you know what I say? I say don't even talk to them then if they don't like America.
Yeah, right. So I want to do bilingual podcasts where I'll be interviewing someone and there's the subject. Like there's an astrologer I think it would be fun to interview, and I know he speaks English. And so we would do half and half. So people who are learning Spanish or people who are learning English, then they can hear a dynamic conversation, but we go back and forth. And so it makes a helpful learning tool in that.
Because when you're learning languages and when you're speaking other languages, there's vernacular in the language. There's topical language. Yeah, vocational vocabulary. So if you're a tool maker, I speak in tool making terms. If you're a mechanic, mechanics speak in mechanical terms. If you're an astrologer, you have astrological terms.
Yep.
If you're an herbalist, you'd have herbal terms, that aren't necessarily easy to know or why they are the way they are. Because most herbs are named after Latin words, or they were named in Latin and then they were translated. And so the herbal community still uses the Latin. But if you're speaking Spanish, you can use the Latin, so they give the Latin name even in Spanish. So yeah, that'd be, you guys, so you're saying you'd talk for 5 minutes and then you'd translate all that?
It would probably be, because when you know both languages well enough, it would be like, we'd say a few sentences. It would be as if someone were next to us who spoke trying to learn either language. And it'd be like, hey, Bill, this is what we said.
Yeah.
Without like saying, hey, Bill, this is what we said. It would be just kind of repeating some of that and going back and forth so someone could confirm, oh, I'm on the context. I get the context. I was right. That they're talking about this. Or you might take a word and going, that's an interesting word. In Spain Spanish, it's this. But I learned it in Mexican Spanish. It's like this. Yeah. And then there might be a language tangent, and then we get back to the subject.
Yeah, that'd be good for Bill because there's nobody named Bill that speaks Spanish, so they have to learn.
Yeah.
I get that.
Help them out. Help out those Bills. Of the world.
Right.
Yeah. Or vice versa, if they're learning English, it would be, you would end up working similarly for both.
It would be, okay, Juan, here's what we said.
No, we wouldn't be addressing them, but it would be just like, kind of repeating. You know how sometimes when you're talking about something, you might rephrase it. Mm-hmm. It happened naturally. I mean, people, if you've ever...
I think that's great, because you could do it in Portuguese and Spanish, and you could do it a lot in German.
Not much in German.
And Italian and French and Japanese, because you're a linguist.
Maybe someday.
Because you're a super linguist.
Yeah. But I think that would be fun, first of all. And
just so you know, I'm not #disappointed in your language skills.
Well, you shouldn't be, because I've, been quite helpful for you.
Right.
Actually, the joke is that when we go to countries like that, they ask me, how did you get an American?
That's not a joke. That's true that they've asked you that, because you speak so well and you adapt the accent of the area. And they say, how did you meet an American? Mm-hmm. That's quality language, Tara. Yeah. Yep. When we did go to the UK, you translated the English for me.
Oh my gosh, that one was hard. That was very difficult. Yeah.
I'm like, is your tongue swollen?
Well, and she did have a tongue ring, and it made it just 10 times worse.
I'm like, that's okay. Just keep the money. I don't care. I need to leave.
Yeah. Can you write that down, please?
Do you have mashed potatoes in your mouth, or what is that? Is that peanut butter? I can't.
So, going back to the podcast part, what I kind of thought would be interesting to discuss here is, you are very creative, and you bring it into the business realm well. Mm-hmm. And I don't think anything that I've implemented that you suggested, I don't think anything has technically failed, or it's all thrived.
And I hide it well, because I wear blue jeans and black shirts, and I don't look creative.
Yeah, you're Johnny All-American. And then therefore Tara's America. You gotta
#Tara's America. Look for it.
You gotta. So it could be. Segment.
I'm gonna set up that URL to point to whatever you do. So I'll just tell people it's Tara's America.
Yeah.
And then they'll find you through the URL.
Yeah.
And then they'll be like, "This is the Tara Baklund experience. This is the Tara. This is the Tara experience. This is not Tara's America." I'll be like, "Yeah, it is."
Yeah, it totally is.
And then I'm gonna do a podcast called Jon Talking About Tara's America. So every podcast you do, I'm gonna relate it to America.
So what kind of formats now? Podcasting has evolved to that there are actually different types of podcasts. And what even occurred to me the other day is
there's good ones and there's dumb ones.
Well, what's interesting
That's
is
all there is.
There are a lot of podcasts. So here's something that just really occurred to me one day. I was like, I wonder what the fundamental difference is. So let's take the Joe Rogan podcast, which I know, you like to compare yourself to the worst to feel good. I'll try to aim for the best, as out there and
so
strive.
You feel bad.
And strive. But what's interesting about the Joe Rogan experience is they're like never addressing the camera. I mean, Joe will sometimes say, hey, let's explain that.
Only if something malfunctions.
Yeah, let's explain that so listeners know what we're talking about.
If somebody's doing a gesture or whatever, then he'll say, as you move your hands around and dance, you stood up and spun around, yeah.
But he's not looking at the camera. Neither are looking at the camera. It's side views. I mean, you're looking at them face on.
They're always looking at each other.
They're looking at each other. But the majority of podcasts
are acting like a television show.
Yes.
Yeah. That's bad. Yeah.
Well, but if you're solo, or if you're doing interviews over Zoom, how do you do that? How would you mimic that? And
you go sideways. Your camera is always, like we talked about, the V-shaped table. So you're sitting here, I'm sitting here, and the camera is always.
But if I'm interviewing someone on
straight. Zoom. Well, that doesn't matter if you're looking at each other and talking to each other. If you're on Zoom.
Well, I just thought it was interesting. It's kind of an interesting concept. Is that part of the success in a way? That it's...
Okay, well, yeah. I mean, Rogan flies everybody in. Mm-hmm. So he's done a couple of Zoom type, webcam type podcasts, but doesn't like it. Mm-hmm. But still did it from that angle. He's looking at the screen of the person, the camera's kind of off at an angle. It's never directly straight at him. Mm-hmm. He might not like the way he looks. I mean, he might be like, no, only shoot me from the side. I like my profile. I don't like my straight on look. Whatever. I don't know. I'm just guessing, but just spitball in here. So it might have grown, something like that might have grown out of that, like a feeling of I don't like this. So when he started doing it, he was doing it, but it was on a phone, and he was always passing it, or doing the, hey, what do you think, blah blah blah, and so it was never a television camera in your face reading words off a teleprompter.
Well, and it sounds like that from his account that it just really developed organically. It wasn't. He was just talking with friends. It was a fun thing to do.
He planned it. He's sitting around smoking weed with his friends, swearing, cussing, talking shit. That's a plan, right? Just like you and I were having these morning discussions, and we're like, well, we should record this. We said for years we should record our talks. And now I wish we had. I mean, we've got like 90 podcasts, but we would have had like 300 by now or 400, and I kind of wish we had, because then there'd be more of our relationship development over the years, and and people could track, if we went back 5 years or 6 years, you could track our development, and the things we were going through at that time. We could talk about it still, but it's not like real time.
Right. Yeah,
so, but right now, all we do, just to tell everybody, I used to put my phone on the table and use the voice recorder. Now I put my phone in a small tripod, a Manfrotto tripod with a Manfrotto phone clip, and it just is about 3 inches off the table. So it's not getting any of the vibration from the table per se, or, whatever hitting it. And the sound sounds better to me with it floating like that.
Yeah.
And it sits between us, and we're just talking to each other while the phone is recording, and then straight from the phone I label it, and then I upload it to Podbean, and then it goes to iTunes and all the other places, or Apple Podcasts.
So you've specifically told me, don't plan the podcast.
Don't plan it. Keep it simple. Maybe you have a topic, right? Oh, I mean, if, we'll use Joe. If he's bringing in Neil deGrasse Tyson, they're going to talk about space and science. Now they might talk about their kids. They might talk about an election. They might talk about, their feelings on the vaccine or whatever, but, or vaccines in general, or, what do you think of the Roe v. Wade thing? Just a normal conversation, and I think the biggest thing Joe is trying to do is he's interested. He makes a ton of money off his podcast, so he's trying to keep his income moving, right? And he also wants to talk to people, but he set it up so that he can, he gets a real high quality recording. He's got a guy doing all the audio and video, and they've got a studio, and he brings the people in. So they come in, and then he can sequester them for 3 hours. There's not going to be the dog in the background, or the kid in the background, or the cat in the background, or the wife in the background, or the husband in the background, they're sitting across the table, and they're not really into it because they got their agent sitting in the room going, don't say that. He wants to lock people in a room and get them high and drunk and get them to say stuff they normally wouldn't say, because that's interesting. Elon Musk smoked pot on his podcast in a state where it's illegal, so that's Joe with his finger up to the man, and he made a deal with the governor, obviously, so nobody's going to raid his facility. And plus, he's got, former Navy SEALs as guards, and he's locked up in a big old warehouse. Nobody can get in anyway. So it's risque. It's got all the elements of things people could hate, but things people could love. And people will, and it's distraction. It's like these guys saying, don't worry about it. Something's going to happen. You're like, whoa, don't worry about it. Joe's not getting arrested for smoking weed. Well, you do that. You do that without a $100 million deal and move into a state where you're going to bring $1 billion worth of business. You do that. You're going to get arrested.
Yeah, half the comedians, at least from California, and
people from New York, people from all over the country, comedians flocking. It's a new venue. It's an opportunity. It's an upstart. It's it's all these things where it's not all the established people with all their friends that work the doors and work the clubs and work all the things. And he's going to build a club, and at the same time, Tony Hinchcliffe is doing his upstart comedy, for comedians. Hey, you can get up here and get on a national program and do something. That show is incredibly popular. And then Joe talks about all his comedian friends, right? They cross promote. They promote each other all the time. And that's essential. The people that come on your podcast, hey, where are you? What are you? Okay, we'll put all your stuff in the show links, and we'll sell your products. We'll do your stuff.
I have a couple questions.
Okay.
And then I'm gonna have to get ready.
Okay.
But I want to pick your brain about this. So using your strategy of comparing to the worst, successful strategy. What do you think makes a bad podcast?
Overproduction.
Yeah?
Yeah.
What's overproduction, and why do you think that?
Adding tracks, adding, jumping back and forth, especially if it's video. People will watch it, but they'll watch it because their brain is addicted to the flash and the change and the busyness, the keep goingness, right?
What do you think is the perfect amount of production then?
I don't think any production. I think Rogan has they start it, they record it, they do it. Now they are not doing it live anymore, because what was happening on YouTube was people were clipping it while it was live. And by the time Joe's podcast was done, these clips would have millions of views. So the clips were pulling people away. Hey, Rogan said this, blah, can you believe what Elon Musk is doing, blah, And the news media was coming out with news before his podcast was even done, because it's a 3-hour podcast. Mm-hmm. So if in the first half hour Elon Musk is smoking weed, by the next 20 minutes, all the news media is covering that Elon Musk is smoking weed. Mm-hmm. They're still sequestered in the room, and then Elon Musk gets on his plane and pops on his social media and his emails, and he's got all these people. It's better that nobody would know for a week, and then that podcast gets published a week later. So then Rogan gets all the traffic. He gets all the eyeballs because the whole podcast is there. People can scroll through it, and then all the trolls and all the clipmeisters are scrolling through his podcast, not just getting a 5-minute clip and making money off it.
So I'd like to go into that further, but I have to get ready.
Well, you're not going to do a 3-hour podcast, and you're not famous, so you don't have to worry about it.
Well, thanks for comparing me to the best. I was using the other strategy. Come on.
Oh, okay.
I'm just kidding.
Well, you're going to be prettier than 99% of the people out there on podcasts, and you speak multiple languages, and you have multiple skills and talents that you can talk about across the board.
I'm way prettier than Joe.
I would agree. That's a very easy thing to agree with.
Right. So, collaboration. I really, even though internally sometimes I'm like, well, in my brain, I'm like, it'd be really good to collaborate with that person.
You're trying to plan it out way too much.
Well, and I want to talk about this conceptually, because even with some of my clients, I might be like, yeah, let's collaborate with this person. And they might be like, I don't know. I'm like, let's do it. You might not totally agree with them, but I think today is the age of collaboration.
That's not even the right word. The word is getting track.
You said cross promotion.
Cross promotion. It's a phrase. It's getting traction from anything you can. Mm-hmm. And if you bring on somebody, say this Spanish astrologer, and he's got 25,000 followers, you now have the potential to have 25,000 new followers, right? Mm-hmm. That's the natural cross promotion and cross pollination of podcasting. Mm-hmm. You can benefit from more than just, and all of a sudden all these Spanish astrologers are going to find out you speak Spanish, and it's like, oh, holy cow, well, we can learn from our teacher, we can learn from this lady, we can learn, and then they're going to subscribe to your podcast because you're doing something that is also in their language, and they're going to learn the crossover of multiple vernaculars or categories in different languages, which is very valuable to people that speak other languages.
Well, I'm not going to say I necessarily got this idea from Duolingo, but it was more like just things that I like to do, and that's what I'm trying to emphasize. So it's not, doesn't feel like work. But Duolingo has a podcast that it is lingual, where
that would
no,
make sense.
it's not dual. No, I think it actually is in the language, but they might do it slower or based on certain lessons.
Yeah, so you can listen to the podcast in your own language,
right? But
or
it's
in the language you're trying to learn.
Yeah, the language you're trying to learn,
Yeah.
and I forget if they have a discussion afterwards or something like that. But it's static. You know, it's different when it's in live conversation, and so they do it on different topics. So hopefully you'll find a topic that also interests you. And so maybe, you know, I gleaned some idea of that, but I just thought it would be interesting.
Yeah.
Anyways, yeah, so you're kind of talking more about cross-promotion, not necessarily collaboration.
Right. Why would why wouldn't you promote somebody that is on your podcast? We've seen and heard podcasts where people aren't promoting properly. The only thing they'll promote is their website. You know, here's your website, blah, 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 blah. They don't promote the social media. They don't promote the classes. They don't promote the products. They don't promote they'll just say, oh, and if you're interested in what this person is doing, you can go to their website, blah, blah, blah. Most of the time they'll say, go to our website, go to affiliate links and find them. And because, you know, it's a pattern of making money, right? Then you get more clicks on your website. Then you get clicked on the affiliate link. Then they get a percentage from that sale, blah, 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 right? So, which is all good. It's all good. I don't have a problem with any of it. But I think promoting directly allows people to trust you more. Yeah. So you're like, go to their website here, go to their social media here, buy their book here, you know, buy their book at Amazon, da 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 da. Well, then the person thinks, well, you're not just money grubbing. You know, you're honestly trying to promote and trying to help, and so then I'm going to believe more in you. You know, because it's gonna come through, you know, the cross promotion. It's just going to come through. And when you sell your book, people are going to be like, oh, I'm going to buy Tara's book because she's promoting this other person's book. Well,
I genuinely believe in the collaboration or cross promotion.
Freely giving information is what you do. You know, you're like, yeah, you know, I'll teach a person a language, or I'll teach this, or I'll do that, or
raising people up, you know. You know, like the camel milk guy, when I had him on, I mean, my podcast didn't have a huge reach, but also I mean, young men typically don't have a hard time promoting themselves if they're starting a business, but, you know, to have someone else help to illustrate the benefits of what you're doing is extremely helpful.
Yeah. And we tried it, you know, we don't buy it by the case, but we tried it and it was okay, but we don't drink milk.
Right.
I mean, we have butter in our coffee. We'll have half and half in our cappuccinos, but we're not just sitting down with a glass of milk and slamming it.
Yeah. Well, good. Well, I've enjoyed our collaboration and our cross promotion.
Me too.
I appreciate you being here today,
the
Jon.
cross pollination I've been doing with you. Yeah.
Right. And compared to all those guys at the bar, I mean, you are so amazing.
Wow.
And
wow. Jeez.
You're actually looking off.
Are you a barfly? What are you doing?
Turning your eyes away. I couldn't come up with another example. The guys hanging out at the gas station. How about that? Is that better?
No, how about the guys that hit on you at the grocery store in the produce section?
Well, that too, but I really.
You always come home from the grocery store, so I'm happy.
Jon, I always come home from the grocery store, and you know.
Comparing me to other guys, interesting.
The worst. It makes
comparing me to the worst.
Really shine.
Wow,
We're
that's
going
terrible.
into the Jerry Springer's strategy from
compare
earlier.
Compare me to whatever you think would be the best, and if you still want to be with me, you can stay.
Well, you have tried to pay me millions
Bam.
of dollars.
How about that?
Millions of dollars to leave. So that's
I had
good testimony.
I had to test. You know, I give you a hypothetical amount of money.
Yeah.
Would you leave me for that? Yeah.
Yep.
And quite a test, isn't it?
I was like, no,
no,
not that hypothetical amount. That's not the amount that it would take.
Maybe if I had the cash in my account, but not that hypothetical amount. Yeah. I would, yeah. If I had $1 billion, I would.
$1 billion.
Yeah, if I had $1 billion, I would tell you, you can have 500 million to leave me. That's how much.
That's $500 million.
I would.
Bucks.
Absolutely, because that's how much guys want to know they're wanted. I want to be wanted. That's all I want from you, is to be wanted by you.
I think that's actually the philosophy behind giving a woman a big rock for a ring and stuff, because she could technically go sell that.
No, that's not it. That's not it at all.
No?
No. That's a marketing trick.
Totally?
Yes.
Yeah.
Because you don't want a thing from a guy. You want his love. You want his care. You want his protection. You want him to be there for you. You know, that I get it. The rock is an investment. The rock is like, oh, yeah, hey, here's a quarter of my income for the year. You know, let's put it on your finger, you know.
No, don't.
Which is really dumb.
Don't go
I don't believe
driving to Minneapolis and yeah.
Well, we're getting on too many different philosophies.
Yeah, it's
now,
going
so.
on. Maybe next time expand into what is the reason for a rock for a ring.
Well, I'm back on coffee. I can feel myself being a little bit more aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other night.
Not more energy, just more aggressive.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other night, what?
Well, I think yesterday.
I was impressed by myself
twice.
the other night too. Yeah.
Well, that was amazing. Wasn't going to talk about that, but sorry. Definitely not disappointed.
Okay, the other night, what?
The other day, there was like twice where you like took the off-camber way of what I was saying. Like I was saying something and you're like, well, fine. And I'm like, no, I wasn't saying it like that. I was literally asking. I can't even remember the example. And you're like, quit nagging me. I'm like, quit watching Jerry Springer.
Was I a little barky?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
And then you mellowed out. Thank goodness. I had to like literally say to you, I'm just generally asking about this. And I remember. I was like, we need to make a list of the things that we're going to complete outside. And you're like, are you trying to tell me to finish the sauna? And I'm like, no, actually.
Like, just be honest. Just tell me what you want me to do.
Honestly.
I'm going to disagree with you. Just tell me what you want me to do so I can say no.
Evidently. And I was like, no, actually, I just think if we write it down, you know, because the summer's half over.
And who made the list and shared it with you?
List. Yeah. Yes.
Bam.
It was awesome. You fortunately are getting quicker at getting over your grumpiness.
Jon Baklund. Woo! Grumpiness. I wasn't grumpy. I was just aggressive.
Yes. So I was just concurring. I think that, there's...
You don't want to tell an aggressive guy what to do. You want to ask him questions. And you did kind of ask a question. You did kind of say, I think we should...
No, but it's super annoying if someone is like, what do you think if we made a list of our projects that we need to finish? I mean, that's
it's kind of annoying.
Yes, exactly. So, and then if I ask, what do you think would help us to finish these projects?
What do you think would help us to finish the sauna? You mean you want me to go finish the sauna?
You mean you want me to go finish the sauna? Just say so, or don't.
Yeah, like I don't have enough things to do. We started all these projects at one time, and it was like, oh my God. Yep. I mean, I'm glad we did, because if something's 3/4 finished, you don't have much to do. But if you never get to it, it's still 3/4 finished. You know, it's like, you know, and then you get a really nice day, and it's like, oh yeah, I could go finish the sauna, but I want to go mountain biking.
Yeah.
You know, and
see, so we just need to live somewhere where we have more summer.
Well, then you got family, and you got to spend time with family and all this stuff. And
then, and then your kitty's harassing you. She wants you to pet her. And
she's not really. She's just walking around.
She was last night.
She's
you were
impatient.
rubbing my back, and like your hand was kind of coming out of nowhere. It probably looked like to her. And so she came up to my back and was like, I'm here. This hand looks like it needs something to pet. Because you were touching my back, but it was your hand was underneath me, or your arm. It was really funny.
Yeah.
They're like, oh, he must be waving me over. I know that big.
Well, I do sometimes when she comes up and she's a little restless and she meows or something. I'll put my hand in the air and I'll kind of make a scratchy motion, like
Yeah.
she's looking at it right now.
Her eyes are just like, oh,
She's
yeah.
like, yeah, I'm here. And then she'll come up to my hand. So
Right.
she probably saw that.
I think
was
so.
Rubbing your hand, and she was like,
Here
all right,
I am.
Here I am.
All right, that's a good point to end on.
All right.
I think.
Later.
All right, bye.